Okay, here's the second lesson, and this one is over geometric probability. Geometric probability is saying if I randomly pick a point in this figure, what's the chance it's going to be in the shaded area? Okay, what percent chance? Or another way of looking at it is what percent of the picture is shaded. And the way we find it is we take the area that we want, which in this case is always going to be the shaded area, and we are going to divide it by the total area. And whatever we get for that is going to be a decimal. And then once we have that decimal, we're going to convert that decimal to a percent. Now, this decimal here, you do not need to write down on your paper. I'm simply reminding you that that's the situation so that you're not getting the percent directly. It's a number you got to convert. Okay, so on this number one, we were given two shapes. And we have two shapes to find the shaded area. We're typically going to take the biggest one and subtract the smallest one. Because if I take the rectangle and then I take out this triangle and it disappears, then I just have what's left. So the way we find the shaded area, or the area that we want for this one, is we're going to take the rectangle minus the triangle. And then we're going to divide it by the total, so the largest shape, which in this case is the rectangle. Once we know those two, the plan, now we're going to find the area of both of those shapes. So the first shape is going to be a rectangle and the next one is going to be a triangle. If you did it the opposite way, it is totally fine. It's not going to change anything. Okay, so if we, and I mean opposite as in shape one being the triangle and shape two being the rectangle. Okay, area of the rectangle is going to be 18 times 12. Okay, so I'm going to have to use a calculator here. So we have 18 times 12 is 216. So this is 216 centimeters squared. The area of a triangle is always 1/2 base times height. And we were given both the base and the height because it's the two that form the right angle. So 1/2 of 8 is 4. So this is 40 centimeters squared. Now that we found these two numbers, we are going to plug it into this plan that we created from the beginning. The reason we make that plan is so we know where to put the numbers. So the area of shape 1 is 216 minus the area of shape 2 is 40, and then we're going to divide it by the rectangle, which is 216. All right, let's put this in our calculator. So in our calculator, we will do 216 minus 40, and then you got to hit enter. And then you're going to do divided by 216. And we're going to round this to the nearest whole percent. So we're basically rounding to two decimal places. So that for this one is going to give us 81% shaded. Okay, let's try this again on number two. Number two, we want to take the area we want divided by the total. Well, the way we get the area we want is to take the square minus the circle. Now we have to divide it by the total area. And the total area is the largest shape, which in this one is the square. So we now need to find the area of the square and the area of the circle. And again, doesn't matter which one is shape 1 and shape 2. For the square, the area of a square is side squared. So 16 squared is 256 inches squared. The area of a circle is pi times the radius squared. Let me write it like this first. Okay, again, you're going to have that formula sheet. You got to use it. Use it when you're doing your homework because you've got one in your notes. Okay, now this time I gave you the distance all the way across. Well, that's the diameter. We don't need the diameter. We need the radius. So the radius is halfway. So the radius is 8. So the area is 64 pi. Now that we've found the two areas, now we're going to take these two numbers and plug them into the plan. That's why we have the plan, so we know what to do once we get the areas. So on this one, I'm going to take 256 minus 64 pi and divide it by 256 because I wanted square minus circle divided by square. All right, let's put this in our calculator. So in our calculator, 256 minus, I forgot the number, my bad, 64 pi, there you go, minus 64 pi, and then we hit enter, and then we're going to divide it by 256, and my answer is going to be to the nearest whole percent, 21%. And again, nearest whole percent, we're basically rounding to two decimal places. So it's going to be 21%. All right, just a couple more. On this one, We first want to get the shaded area, the area we want. To get the shaded area, it's going to be circle minus triangle. We need to divide that by the total, and the total is a circle. So I'm going to find the area of the circle and the area of the triangle. The area of the circle is pi times the radius squared. And the radius was given to you, that's 10. So that's 100 pi. The area of the triangle, label, feet squared. The area of the triangle, well, the area of a triangle, if you look on your formula sheet, is 1/2 base times height. It didn't give you the base or the height. What I gave you is the radius, which means we're going to need to use the formula 1/2 little a times perimeter. So if I draw in that apothem, remember in a triangle, if I drew in the radii, there'd be 6 smaller triangles, just kidding, 3 smaller triangles. And so they all form a circle. 360 divided by 3 is 120, but the apothem splits it in half, so this is 60. So now I know the long side is 10, so the short side is 5, and the medium side is 5 square root 3. So now I know the apothem is 5, but what I'm missing is the perimeter. Well, we know that one side is 10 square root t, the two 5s together, and then we have 3 sides, so we multiply it by 3, so this is 30 square root 3. Half of 30 is 15. 5 times 15 would give us 75 square root 3 feet squared. Now we're going to take these two numbers and plug it into the plan we created from the beginning. Use the plan. I wouldn't have you make it if it wasn't worth it. So now we're going to plug it in. So I have circle 100 pi minus triangle 75 square root 3 divided by circle 100 pi. Now there's one little hiccup on this one, because on the other ones, we're just dividing by a number. Well, this is we're dividing by the number and pi. So if it's not just a plain number, we're going to have to take this part right here and put it in parentheses when we put it in our calculator. So let's practice doing that. So I'm going to do, let's clear this little out. 100, oops, I hit the wrong thing. Try again. 100 pi minus 75 square root 3 and hit enter. Now when I divide, since I'm not dividing by just 100, I'm dividing by 100 and pi, I have to do parentheses, 100 pi, close parentheses, and then hit enter. So to the nearest whole percent, that 8 gets bumped up to a 9, so it's going to be 59%. Okay, 2 more. On the next one, figuring out the plan. To get the shaded region, I'm going to take the hexagon and subtract the circle and divide it by the hexagon. Okay, so I'm going to make this the hexagon and this the circle. So the area of the hexagon, the only option we have for a regular polygon is 1/2 little a times perimeter. Well, right now I know the apothem. That's 15. That's nice. I just need to know the perimeter. So I'm going to draw in the radius of the hexagon. Okay, in a hexagon, there'd be 6 triangles because there's 6 sides. 360 divided by 6 is 60. Cut in half is 30. This 15 is the medium side. So to get the short side, I'm going to divide by the square root of 3. So that's 5 square root 3. And this is 5 square root 3. So I know the whole side is 10 square root 3. And to find the perimeter, I have to multiply it by the number of sides, which is 6. So this gives me 60 square root 3. Half of 60 is 30. So when I multiply that, I get 450 square root 3, I lost my train of thought, yards squared. There we go. Now for the circle. The circle is pi times the radius squared. Well, some people might think that this is the radius of the circle, but the radius of a circle has to go from the center to a point on the circle. So it needs to be this one. This one ends on the hexagon, not on the circle, so it doesn't work. So we're going to have pi times 15 squared, which is 225 pi yards squared. Okay, take these two numbers, went too far, and plug it into the formula. So that means we're going to have 450 square root 3 minus 225 pi divided by 450 square root 3. Now, if I look at the bottom, I'm not dividing by 450. I'm dividing by 450 and that radical. So this is a situation where I need parentheses. Okay, let's practice putting this one in our calculator because it's a little tricky. So I'm going to do 450 square root 3. If I hit minus now, it's going to be under the radical, which I don't want. So I arrow to the right, then do minus, and then I have 225 pi. Enter. Now I've got to divide. I'm going to divide by 450 square root 3. Since it's more than 450, I'm going to do parentheses, square root 3. If I hit parentheses now, it'll be under the radical. I don't want that. Arrow to the right, close the parentheses, hit enter. And so I get 9%. Okay, last one. We don't have two different shapes. We just have two different size rectangles. So for this one, I'm going to say that we're going to take the big rectangle minus the small rectangle divided by the big rectangle. So we'll make this the big one and this the small. Well, the big is easy. We're just going to take 22 times 17 and 22 times 7. Try again. 22 times 17 is 374. So this is 374. Okay. To get the other one, the border is 3. So it's 3 on the left and 3 on the right, and 3 on the top and 3 on the bottom. So to get the length, one side is 22, but I cut 3 off here and 3 off here for a total of 6. So this is going to be 16, right? Yes. Okay, then on the other side, sorry about that. I'm going to have 17 because I have 3 on the top and 3 on the bottom, so a total of 6. So this is 11. So for the small, I need to take 16 times 11. So in my calculator, 16 times 11 is 176. So this is 176, and these are inches squared because they're area. Now that I have the area, I'm going to take these two numbers and plug it into my plan. So the big is 374 minus the small 176 divided by 374. This right here, plain old number, no parentheses necessary. So 374 minus 176 divided by 374, and that gives us 53%. Okay. There are more in your review, and you can practice in your homework. So there's options to be able to learn this more or get more practice.